Hello, and welcome to If These Old Beasts Could Talk. Now, today, me and one of my friends, the train goes, decided we were going to go to Durand, Michigan. Now, what really spurred this whole idea was us messing around the day before in the area, seeing a yellow signal, me being a nerd, realizing, oh hey, yellow signal means train coming, and then me being completely wrong because it was a distant and then just made no sense whatsoever. So, all that aside, we went to Durand. And Durand is a really cool spot for rail fanning. Really heavy traffic railroad diamond, massive railroad depot, rail fanning hardware set up in advance for people, and just a lot of things to do in regards to railroads and history. So we made a trip out there, and we actually got to see some pretty interesting things that were happening that don't usually happen. So without further ado, I'm going to cut into the first footage. I'm going to narrate a lot of this just to let you know what's going on. I'm going to have to cut a lot of things out because there were other people there today. And that is a story that I will talk about in a few minutes. But for now, let's just cut to the footage. Anyway, one of the first things you notice when you actually get to the depot in Durand itself is the sheer size of the thing. Now, I am a museum volunteer, and I'm used to crawling around an 1886 railroad depot that's a pretty standard size. It's a bit big, but it's made of brick and it's old, so it's not that big of a building. This thing is massive. The Durand Depot is one of the biggest depots I've seen. I mean, of course, it's not like Michigan Central or like Chicago Union Station big, but it's big. So, as with any rail fanning spot, it comes to no surprise that there are certain angles that are better to catch trains at and better to see trains coming towards you from than other places. And at Durand, that's no different. Going west towards Chicago, there's a pretty big bend right as you get past the depot that really restricts your view until trains are right up on you, and then it might be too late to get that perfect shot of the train. Also, going east on the Hawley sub, there's a lot of hills, and it's just really bad to look out for a train coming from a faraway area. The way that Durand decided to get around this was by installing an ATCS monitor right inside the window of the depot that faces out towards the platform. An ATCS monitor stands for Automatic Train Control System Monitor. It's basically the same thing that the dispatcher sees, the guy who's actually routing the trains, in his office. And what it allows for is for us to see where we can't see. It allows us to see where the train's routed, where he's going, where he's coming from, and most importantly, if he's around that nasty little bend or over those hills that you can't see. And that's really, really cool. And we learned how to use it a lot. But we didn't learn how to use it fast enough for the first train of the day to roll through. That we pretty much had to freehand, and we had to catch it quick because it was a fast one. Now, on big railroads like Canadian National, I can't exactly be too sure who he was or where he was going. But all I know is that he was going from northeast on the Flint sub, diverging to going southeast on the Hawley sub, and he was going there fast. I've been rail fanning in southeast Michigan almost my entire life, and if there's one piece of advice I could offer to people who are just coming here for the first time, watching this video, say from somewhere out west, or just simply want to get into rail fanning in this area, it's that you should always expect some, if not all of a consist, especially on your major Class 1 carriers, to be auto rack cars. The automotive industry is Michigan's most well-known industry, and let me tell you right now, those cars aren't just going to stay here. And that actually leads to an interesting side effect. You get to see the whole buffet of American railroads, BNSF, Union Pacific, even Mexican lines like Ferromex and KCSDM, which is absolutely insane. So I always think of it on the bright side, It's a lot of auto racks, but hey, at least those auto racks have diverse personalities and are from all over North America. Now these next cars are a little bit of a treat for me. I never really see intermodal cars come through my town, at least not to the volume that they come by on other railroads. So it's kind of nice to see something that's just a little bit different from what you normally see in your hometown, in your day-to-day experience rail fanning. I'll be honest. To say that the weather wasn't too good when we got to Durand was a pretty big understatement. The weather was just bad. And we didn't have to wait very long, though, because it did clear up. So these next few shots are going to be a little clearer. I lied. There are a few more rainy shots in here, but after this, they should start to clear up a little. Some of you in construction or roadway repair might look at this and start to realize it's not all different from one of your machines. This unit right here is a grader, but unlike ground versions, which grade piles of dirt and sand down to make roads and flat surfaces, this grades railroad ballast. It was right about now that me and the Ghost decided we were going to leave the Durand depot for a couple minutes, just get some snacks, freshen up, walk around, and see what else there is to do for rail fans in the Durand area. And my goodness, it did not disappoint. In Durand, they have a GTW caboose, much like my caboose, except it was built a whole 40-odd years later. Mine was built in 1888. This one was built in 1927, so I guess 39. Boo-hoo. But anyway, I got to go in it later. It was a really nice caboose. They beautifully restored it, but that wasn't the main attraction here. You see, in Durand, right at the base of this water tower that says Durand, it's a pretty big white water tower. It's kind of like the beacon of the city. There's a rail park. And this rail park has a lot of interesting stuff in it. For one, there's a Grand Trunk Western baggage car. At least it looks like a baggage car. It could be a combination car. I'm not quite sure. There's an interlocking tower. There's a bunch of railroad signaling devices, notably a WRRS auto flag wigwag crossing signal, and a searchlight signal. I didn't get the exact type, but searchlights are my favorite type of railroad signal. But by far, the main attraction of the rail park was the full-size, right there, in-your-face steam locomotive GTW 5632. 5632 is one of the surviving sisters of GTW 5629. We don't like to talk about that, but it did happen. But hey, there's a Grand Trunk Pacific that's sitting right in the center of Durand, and it's just so awesome. I didn't get photos of a lot of the stuff in Durand, at least at this rail park area, but let me tell you, it was a cool experience getting to see all this cool local hardware. Now, we immediately came back to another maintenance of way move when we got back to the depot, and it was a tie crane this time, with a little tie cart behind it. It's a little tie cart. This next piece of maintenance hardware we caught moving, I didn't at the time know what it was. But now, after a little bit of research, I realize it's a track tamping machine. And it's coming back around, probably coming from maintenance further up on the line, and it's going to cross over the diamond right here. A few moments prior to this footage, a Canadian National worker came by on a high rail truck, opened up the small cast iron boxes on the side of the railroad hardware box that you see slightly off camera right now, and began talking to the locomotives. What's cool is that these little push button boxes are a callback to yesteryear with wayside phones, but naturally we asked him, hey, how many trains are coming through? And he said 3. As it turns out, he had the train stopped up on the main so that they could get this maintenance away hardware back into the yard on the diverging track that you're seeing right now. Now, a couple things happened here. Most notably, the hardware went back into the yard, which should have cleared reasonable amounts of traffic area for trains.
Give us a second, little man, all right?
No matter if you're rail fanning in the state of Florida or here in Durand, Michigan, if there's an area where rail fans are encouraged to be, systems in place, viewing platforms around, there are going to be kids who want to come watch trains. And today, there was a little guy who came by and wanted to watch trains too. Now, this little guy was kind of reminding me of myself when I was little, and he did some things which to many people might not seem that out of the ordinary, but I really have to discuss here on this channel just for the sake of discussion. This little dude who came out wanted to post up in the perfect spot, the corner where both the platform fences meet, which is arguably the best spot to watch trains. There's only one problem with that. My friend the Ghost had been in that spot for a long time, standing in that spot for several hours waiting for trains and hardware shots and all sorts of things, where you may have heard him ask several times while we were filming trains. It was after this shot, the last shot that I took, that I decided I had to go and talk to him. Now, as a rail fan, you're never entitled to a perfect shot. Perfect audio, perfect photo clearance, perfect anything. You're not entitled to it. It's oftentimes up to chance to make those legendary moments, if and when they do occur, completely perfect. But today, that's not really why I went and talked to this little dude. This guy was so enthusiastic that after a while, he did start to get a little bit loud. So I decided I'd go over and have a talk with him. So, first and foremost, I said, "Hey, little man, my friend's been waiting over there on the order of 2 to 3 hours to catch a train at the Diamond in that tiny little spot. Do you think it would be fair that he should give that up now after not catching a train and waiting so long?" And I could tell the kid understood what I was saying. The next thing I told him was, "Hey, you know, some people like quiet shots for their YouTube, their Instagram, and, you know, it's not really something people like when you talk when the train comes by. So, when the train comes by, could you try to be a little quiet?" And his next response really got me. He asked if I was mad at him. No, I wasn't mad at him at all. The people that I'm mad at are the people that make me have to have these conversations. The people that will yell at enthusiastic little dudes like this for being in their shot or making too much noise. You know, take it from me, a guy who was rail fanning since I was a little kid. One bad day trackside can take you from wanting to rail fan all day, every day, to never wanting to go down to the tracks again. And that's not a good thing in the slightest. These little guys are the next generation of rail fans. We need to treat them kindly. And I don't know about you, but the next time I saw this little guy, I got a hug. So, let me tell you right now, sometimes it pays to be a nice guy when it comes to things like this, and not to yell at these guys. You know, it takes a level of understanding to make the rail fan community better for everyone involved. It didn't take long at all after all that MOW hardware had cleared for movement to start up again. And this time, it was something on the Holly side.
What came next was a weird lining on the dispatch board on a long segment of track. As it turns out, that long segment of track was known as the high line. It was the track that was way further away than me and my friend had to run to get to, because we didn't really know how to read the board at the time. What came next actually wasn't on the dispatch board. I heard a familiar horn, a wailing horn, so to speak, on the Holly so, and my suspicions were quickly confirmed. It was indeed a very familiar horn. It was the GLC OSTN run, and let me tell you right now, he was hauling today. A statement I often make, which leaves other rail fans absolutely bewildered and oftentimes questioning my sanity, is that a GEVO is actually a rarer sight for me than an SD35 locomotive. The reason I say that is because Great Lakes Central bought SD35s off Montana Rail Link and puts them on every possible consist that they can. When you think about it, SD35s are the perfect units for Great Lakes Central, because they're just like the GP35s that are their classic road units from the Ann Arbor, but at the same time they've got 6-axle trucks and just more modern features, which will allow them to haul modern loads and the pretty heavy cars like they were hauling today. To finalize everything, in the words of a Great Lakes Central conductor that I often talk to when he drops by either at the Durand depot or at my depot in Howell, is that there are 5 operational SD35 locomotives in the United States of America, and Great Lakes Central has 3 of them. The last train of the day was a pretty spicy eastbound. In fact, it was so spicy I kind of had to run to catch it here. hope you enjoyed today's variety of footage from Durand, Michigan, of my first trip and my first time ever out at that depot. Anyway, this has been If These Old Beasts Could Talk. Don't forget to like, subscribe, interact, do whatever. It helps boost the videos in the algorithm and it allows more people to see quality railroad content from Michigan. Anyway, this has been If These Old Beasts Could Talk. See you around. And with that, I'll leave you with a couple extra seconds of quiet footage of the Howell Depot in the rain. See you later.